Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soulprism Podcast, where we share bite-sized nuggets of wisdom for your body, mind, and soul to serve you, the emerging soulpreneur. My name is Tammy Mack, and I'm really excited to be here today. Today, I am talking with Sean McCool, and I got to find out if that's actually your name, like your real name, but Sean McCool, who talks about how the second half of our life is the best half of our life. And I absolutely love this conversation because Sean is a 6'2" generator, where I am a 6'2" splenic projector. And as the sixth line, we know that we don't tend to pick up speed until after around the age of 40 or 50 when we're coming off the roof. Now, this is human design terms, and Sean is a complete newbie to human design. So I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to welcome Sean, and I want to hear, what is it that you're doing? What is it that is lighting up your sacral right now?
Yeah. So, wow. So many ways I could go on that, right? So yeah, good to be here. Good to be on the Soulprism Podcast and talking to soulpreneurs and people that like the stuff that you and I like. So yeah, it's fun. And I am 52. So it definitely resonates when you said picking up speed at 50. That feels more right for me than 40. So yeah, what's lighting me up right now is I've decided to call myself, this week anyway, maybe for the next couple of years, the second half guy, which is a term actually a friend of mine came up with for me, a younger, he's only like in his 30s, but he was like, "You're the second half guy." And I was like, all right, resisted it. I was like, yeah, that kind of feels right. So yeah, I'm just on a journey in the second half of life to help other people see that the second half can be the best half. And that's through, and nothing's off limits, whether it's fitness, whether it's, have an acronym FIRE that I use for life. So fitness, identity, relationships, and empire. So any of those areas, you can make the rest the best.
I love that you said that. My son is 17 years old. And recently he asked me, he's like, "Mom, how does it feel knowing that the best years of your life are over? Like, you're over the hill now."
Did you slap that child? I hope you slapped that child. Slap some sense into him.
I did not smack my child. I laughed and I said, "Oh, honey, like I recognize the arrogance." Because you were like, when you're 17 years old, you're growing into your sense of self. You're growing into what it is that you think. We're connected
Right.
to our solar plexus. So I think, what I think in our sense of worth and sense of value. And so I find these, kids now that I'm older and I'm, that age where I'm like, oh my God, the arrogance and the egos on these kids, right?
Yeah.
Which is probably what our parents said to us as well. Luckily, yep. I have the awareness and the capacity to be like, okay, I see where you are. You are dead wrong, but that's where you are right now. And I'm going to honor that. But to be quite honest, me and Sean were talking about when I celebrated my 40th birthday, I did a Spartan trifecta. And for those that don't know what the Spartan trifecta is, it is a half marathon length, usually about 10 to 15K length, and a 5K length in obstacle course racing. Yep. Like, this isn't for the faint of heart, right? Like, the amount of fitness, and I was, quite fit at that time, but to be training for that level of fitness at the age of 40 was such, like, I felt so lucky and I felt so blessed that I was healthy and happy and able to commit to that at the age of 40. So that was it felt like such an accomplishment. Now, you also completed yours in 2018 as well, and you were older, but I'm curious, Let's talk about the Spartan a little bit and how it is that you felt, at our age. Not that it's a big thing, but I mean, being older and really getting into these physical sports.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I was a little bit of an athlete. I wasn't a great athlete in high school. And then went in the military for 3 years. You kind of forced to be somewhat of an athlete there as far as physical exertion and things like that. But after I got out of the military, I'd kind of just thumbed my nose up. I was like, I'd been told to exercise for 3 years. So I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. So most of my 20s and even 30s, I would dabble in and out of exercise and the gym and things like that. But yeah, in my 40s, right around 40, I got into CrossFit, 2012, I guess.
Me too.
And that
2012.
around that time, yeah, 2012, I think I started going to CrossFit regularly. And it was about, so yeah, started hiking some mountains, just happened to meet some people, and ended up hiking like 3 14ers, 14,000 foot mountains, all like in a 3-month span. Just weird coincidence. One in Guatemala, one of them over in Colorado. Can't remember. And yeah, one in Hawaii. Although Hawaii didn't really hike, we just got to the top of it. But still, though, it's just like these different physical experiences, different viewpoints. So I was very active, and I was like, I want to try a Spartan race, and signed up for the first one with one of the groups I was in. We did it as a group, and once I had one I actually did the Beast first. So once I had that one, I was like, well, now I got to do the trifecta, right? Because the marketing they have is great. They give you 1/3 of a medal, and you're like, well, I gotta finish it. So yeah, signed up for 2 more in Columbia, South Carolina, and I did the sprint and the other 2 like one day after each other. So, but yeah, I mean, I'd already been training with CrossFit and a couple other things. So I was actually feeling stronger in my 40s than I had in my 20s and 30s. So, yeah, I definitely felt stronger, and I still, to this day, still work out. I don't do CrossFit anymore. I do more Peloton. I do a lot of rucking. If you're not familiar, you know what rucking is?
I have a sandbag in my backyard.
Okay. Yeah. So I do a lot of rucking. That's actually just came back from one. I'm still slightly sweating because I just came back from a 5-mile ruck. So yeah, definitely the fitness is just taken on a whole new level since, my early 40s. It feels great.
It's funny. I remember back when I was like 18 or 19, I could not run a block. And it wasn't until my mid 30s that I started to become more physically fit. And so there was a pocket of time where that was like my main focus was, I remember taking, my fitness trainer. I was I took all the certifications because I'm a certification junkie. I have to dive in deep into everything that I learned. So I took my personal training, I took my nutrition, I took my, I actually had a small business where I did meal prep for lifters and stuff like that for a while. So I was big into the, systems and the macros and stuff like that. I'm a projector. Systems is where I feel the most comfortable. So whenever I can like fully understand a system, it just makes so much sense to me. And so I was really, really focused on that in such a short period of time. And then it kind of left. It was almost like, okay, I got my goal, I got my accomplishment. And then the level of fitness that I have now is different. I'm still very, I still maintain a level of fitness, but I'm not as hardcore as I was at that time. There's something to be said for old man strength, though. Working in long-term care, especially in dementia units and mental health, old man strength can outlift, they're just so much stronger than our youth. Like I can outlift my teenage boy, because I have that built up. And so when we move into that second half of our life, we have that life experience, we have that muscle memory that we get to bring into and really refine in our maturity. And I'm curious if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I remember, I was probably 45. I was with a group of guys, and most of them were young. There's one probably my age, and then there was 3 or 4 that were younger. They were probably 15 years younger. I just remember we were all hanging out in the backyard, and there just happened to be this huge boulder like right there, and somebody was like, I don't know, somehow it came up like, who could move that boulder? Because it's a bunch of guys sitting around, shooting the crap. I was like, I can do it. And sure enough, like I was able to summon that old man strength a little bit and move it. Nobody else could move it. So I was like, it's pretty cool. Like I definitely sense some of that. And I've found right now that like, I'm not about like the hard, like intense burst, like hit type stuff. I'm actually more into like endurance, slow grind stuff. So yeah, it's interesting how that's kind of changed. And, I'd rather go walk for 3 hours than do a 20-minute Tabata workout. Just, I don't know. It's just kind of weird that kind of long, slow grind, be with yourself, meet yourself. There's something that happens after like an hour in a workout that is just, you go to another place.
Let's talk about that because this year I was going to start training for my first ultra. And I don't want to do like, I never want like a half marathon, about 25 is probably the longest that I've ever run. There's something to be said about the ultra, like the 50K plus. And as you were saying, after about an hour or so, when you get out of your head, you get into your body, there's times where you really meet yourself. And I remember when I was running the Spartan around a mile 11, I was exhausted. Like I was so tired. And all of a sudden I just felt this energy like pick me up. And it felt like I wasn't running anymore. I felt like I was being so supported. I felt like I let go and I let God. And I really just felt like I was surrounded by a team that was supporting me. And it just felt effortless. And a lot of long distance runners also talk about this euphoria. And sometimes, they're so dehydrated and whatnot that they actually see visions and stuff like that. But there is something really interesting when we do, the slow, long, that we really meet ourselves in ways that we wouldn't meet, and this is why I love long distance running. I love listening to people that run it, that they had the grind, the persistence, the consistency, the training, the lifestyle that it takes to get beyond yourself.
Yeah. I hate running, and I don't think I'll ever run again in my life unless something's chasing me. And even then I'd probably turn around and prefer to fight than as opposed to run, just because I don't like running that much. But what I do is I do the rucking. So it's walking with a pack on your back, 20, 30, 40 pounds, something like that. Depending on how long I'm going. So that's my thing right now. It's being under that load and walking, for a minimum of an hour. The longest I did an event with Go Ruck, the company, up in Seattle. Can't remember exactly when it was, but it's been a few years now. It might've been that same 2018-19 time when I was kind of doing more of this stuff pre-COVID and shutdowns and all that. And it was a 50-mile ruck in 20 hours. You had to do it in less than 20 hours. And yeah, there was one time there was about 2 hours, an hour and a half left. And I was going across one of these, the big floating bridge in Seattle that comes out of, or goes back into downtown. And this thing is just forever long. Like it's hot. It's in the middle of the open sun. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and met myself, met my spirit animal, met everything on that bridge. Like I was like panicked. I was just like, I wanted to throw the pack off. And like, I mean, it just hit, it was really tough. And then you just like have to breathe, just keep walking and keep going. But yeah, there's something about that time, that rhythm of the walking or running, for extended distances where it's almost trance-like, meditative. And it's just, you run out of things to think about. Well, you don't really run out of things to think about, but the thoughts get old after a while. So you just go to another place, or at least I do.
It's so true. I find that with my running too. And I'm not I am not a speed runner. I'm a run walker type thing. Like I'm a back of the pack runner, to be quite honest, because to me, that's where the most soul is. because those are the people that don't, that are ready to give up sometimes, so that they
Yeah.
just don't feel like they can. And I love to be at that, there to like, support them. Like, I don't know, like, it's my thing.
Yeah.
And I just love, like, that makes me cry when somebody is so ready to give up on themselves, and they have, and the back of the pack is such a beautiful team that they're pushing each other. They're like pulling each other. And it's my favorite place to be. But I remember when I was training for even the halves, the first 5K was the hardest. It was the absolute hardest, because your body, your mind has so many excuses. Like, we can rationalize anything. We're so good at it, right? We have so many excuses. Why not? And it's once you get beyond yourself, when you get past yourself, and you start to really feel into what you're truly capable of. So I love that with rucking, and I love that you did, was a 50K or a 50 mile. Like, that's
50
to me,
miles.
that's
Yeah.
50 miles. Like, that's like 75K. Like, that's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And I'm just in awe of that. That's a life goal for me. Perhaps not
Yeah.
rucking, but definitely an ultra run walk type thing as well.
Yeah. I still can't believe I did it. Like, there's days when I'm out rucking now, I'm like, how did I do that? Like, I don't even know how it happened. Like, it's crazy when I look back, because now, 2 or 3 hours in, that was a 19 hours nonstop. It's crazy.
I mean, I could talk about that all day, but
Yeah.
we're going to get into like you said, one of the acronym that you were using, one was fitness. What was the next one?
So FIRE is the acronym. So it's fitness,
Fire.
identity.
Yeah. That is let's like go into identity a little bit.
Yeah.
Now you have, I'm just picturing your human design, and once again, you have a defined identity, meaning that you probably feel as though you have a consistent sense of self. Like, even though the terminology of what you call yourself may different, but feeling a consistent sense of who you are. Where my design is open, and so I don't have that consistent sense of self. So I'm a chameleon. It's like, whoever I'm with, I can take on, like, I could take on that energy. But I'm curious, as we move into, past the age of 50, 45, 50, do you feel your identity has shifted? And like, what shifts have you made through that transverse?
Oh, that's a good question. I do feel like I'm finally, like, starting to be okay with myself. And it's been a long, hard journey. Like, maybe that's why I like long, hard rucks, because it just reminds me of what I've been through. But yeah, I mean, most of my life, I mean, I've got 3 words: wisdom, wealth, courage, that are kind of my core words, because most of my life I have felt foolish, broke, and scared. So obviously I've been seeking the opposite, right? In fact, my words are: seek wisdom, create wealth, and maintain courage. So that's what I've been striving for. But even in the last, this year, the last month, and even today on the walk, I was like, you know what? And I actually just changed this on my Instagram bio. I actually just put, I am wisdom sought, I am wealth created, I am courage maintained. And as soon as I wrote that down in the little notes tab in my phone, I was like, yeah, that feels right. Like, it feels like, okay, I need to stop looking outside myself and finally start being okay with, like, who other people have told me I am. Like, there's people that, tell me all the time, like, you've got a lot of wisdom, and I've just never believed it. And I'm finally letting myself believe it now that I'm kind of moving into the second half.
So at the time of filming this, we are actually literally like minutes away from the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And this eclipse is in the gate 1 of purpose. And many of us are diving in deep, clearing up, old beliefs, old thought patterns, old senses of self at some point, and really connecting to a fuller sense of what our purpose is and what purpose means to us. And as you were talking about that, I recently, got a hit last night too. And the thing about, our design as a 6-2 is we don't see ourselves. We don't see ourselves. It's through the biofeedback of our relationships that we really get a feel of who it is that we truly are. It gets pulled out by other people.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I came into my own being as well is less is more, is to really decrease, especially in the sense of values and being productive. And because I was so conditioned to be productive, to be a hard worker, to work hard, hustle hard. I'm a single mom. I'm a full-time healthcare worker. I was running long distance racing, starting a business. I was so conditioned to get my worth, my value and my sense of self-worth by what it is that I could produce, like how hard I could work.
Mm-hmm.
And what it's really coming down to is what is the easiest thing for me to do? Like what brings me joy? What is my happiness? And really it is less is more. And when I can focus, like get really clear, crystal clear on what it is that I value in my life and focus my energy on that, I'm going to come out way more ahead than always trying to prove my worth. So that was like my download. I don't know how I'm going to articulate it on a Instagram bio, but like that's really what this eclipse season has really brought me.
Yeah, I love that. That's a big, that's a huge shift, especially in a world where the opposite is what's rewarded, right? For the most part, more is more. And that's what seems to be the hustle culture, whatever you want to call it. It's everywhere. It's on Wall Street. It's everywhere. So yeah, that's a huge shift. It'll be fun to see how you wrestle with that over the next, few years or however long until it's.
Yeah, in marketing, we're seeing that. We're seeing so much, value, everybody adding more and more and more, and really getting away from the original message that somebody is marketing, right? And
Yeah.
so one of the things that I say is stop adding fluff to your stuff because you don't think you're good enough, right?
Ooh,
because so many
it
times
rhymes and everything.
it rhymes. I'm part of my design is heart-based branding. Like and it's so and everything that it's so cheesy, but it really cuts to the chase, right? Like that's part of my genius. We all have a genius. So we went through F, we went through I. Now what was R again?
Relationships.
So let's talk about relationships now from our 20s to our 40s and 50s, and the shifts that you may have felt through them.
Yeah, so this one's very interesting for me. It's probably one of my weakest parts, because from what I understand about design, which is not much, I'm a hermit in something, right? Or something like that, which really resonates, by the way. Like I could certainly do Henry David Thoreau on Walden Pond and just go sit in a cabin and write. That sounds like a dream to me. Or going up on a mountain for hike by myself. Like I don't need anybody to go with me. It's like just let me go. At the same time, my entire life I've been in sales because I flunked out of college. And in the 90s, when I got out of the military, nobody hired people without a college degree for a good job, right? Now you can you don't need a college degree anymore. But back then you kind of did to get in a door. So I defaulted to sales, commission sales, which forced me to be like relational with people and things like that. But yeah, it's like, that's something I have to really, really work at. And it's something I'm still learning is how to have relationships. I've moved a lot because probably sabotaging relationships, things like that. So that's been the toughest area for me is both the close relationship. I have basically two categories of relationship: in the house and out of the house. So for a while it was me and my wife and two kids. Now it's my wife. We have one child here and one's gone, moved out, living on their own, doing their thing. So yeah, that's a sticky one for me. I think there's a lot left for me in the second half around that. Like, I don't even know what that looks like going forward. So it's not much of an answer, but I'm still feeling that one out as much as anything.
And every answer is a good answer. Like there's no wrong answer. And I love that there's a responsibility that you're taking on. Like I want to like there's something that I, want to work on, because I working in long-term care for 15 years, it really and we're highly conditioned once again on productivity, and you have to serve a purpose and whatnot. And I was like, what is the purpose of some of these senior citizens that are in bed all day and never, don't have family, don't have any, and my job is to feed and clean and feed and clean, like,
Yeah.
what is the purpose? And I didn't at that time really understand how rich and full our lives can be in our older years, where our relationships can shift and change. Personally, myself, I have never I have been single, I think, since 2010. I've only had one relationship in my entire life. And so relationships to me have never been sacral based. I've never, really had sexual relationships or intimate relationships. And yet, I'm a very intimate person. I mean, working in long-term care, very intimate, working
Right.
in mental health and addiction, very intimate. So I find that there's one thing about a 6 line, that we have a soulmate, that we feel that we have a destiny, whether it's a person, whether it's something that we feel that we're called to do, but we feel that we have a destiny. And I truly believe that I have a destiny and I have a soulmate as well. And so I feel like right now I'm doing the work. Not that I'm not good enough for the partner that I am, that I feel that I'm going to meet at some point, but I'm doing the work now. So I'm not bringing that baggage into the relationships.
Yeah, makes sense. I read an interesting thing about purpose the other day. It was like a little question, kind of thought experiment type thing. It was, could you be okay if your entire life's purpose was one seemingly arbitrary moment in time? Could you be okay with that? And it's funny, I actually posted that question on Facebook and people were like, no, that's like, yeah, there's a lot of resistance to it, but it's like, what if your entire purpose, and I'm not saying it is, but it's a great thought experiment, right? And just like surrender and things like that. What if your entire life, 70, 80, 90 years, is for the one smile you gave to the gas station attendant 30 years ago? And that was your purpose here on earth. Like, would that be enough for you? I'm not saying it has to be that. I think we can create that on demand, but that was for some reason that hit me around just, and making every interaction as sacred as possible, because you just never know.
That is so beautiful. That reminds me of a meme that I saw. What if hell is seeing what your life could have been? Yeah. And that kind of remind me of the same thing, where it's that one moment of time, right? Yep. That, and for many of us, I'm going to bring in human design just for a moment. The majority of the people here are creating karma. They're right angle crosses. They're creating their own karma. There's a small part. You're 6'2", so you're a left angle cross. We play a part in other people's karma. So we have a role that we're gonna, something that we do, perhaps that smile at the gas station attendant is going to change somebody's life. And so we play a part in other people's karma. And when I learned about that, I was like, that really made me think. And I was at Walmart today buying groceries, and I made sure I smiled at everybody, just because everybody's kind of grouchy. And I'm like, I'm going to be that one person that's like smiling like a fool, and I'm going to smile at everybody. And it's so interesting, like how people's, their faces shift, when they saw that smile, and they're like, oh, maybe I'm like, maybe I need a smile. I don't know. Like, what's this lady smiling at me for?
Yeah. My thing that I do, that I've just kind of created a habit, and it's also just a reminder to myself, even when I don't feel like it. So, everybody always, you go out in public or you get on a Zoom call or whatever, and people are like, the standard, hey, how are you? So I'm fine, whatever. So I've made it a habit, and I've been doing this for years now. I always answer, I'm amazing. And every single time people are like, they're just shocked out of their stupor, or their, just not stupor, but just this dullness that they seem to be in. And they all kind of smile, they all kind of laugh a little bit. And some of them are like, like that. Others are just, they kind of move on. But yeah, it's interesting. It always does something to people, right? There's definitely a pattern interrupt with it going on. And so now it's kind of a game for me too, but it's also a personal reminder. It's like, I get to choose, every once in a while, somebody will be like, I'll say, I'm amazing. They'll be like, oh, that must be nice. And I'm like, well, that's the choice, and again, I'm preaching to myself as much as anything.
Right now, I'm hosting a couple of groups, right? I have a program called Take Up Space, Sis, and I'm coaching a group, a 21-day initiation to abundance, and it really is talking about, it is a choice. Like, it really is a choice, and we can stay stuck in our limiting beliefs and our old stories and constantly be running that in our head. And so when somebody says, how are you doing? They're instantly going to complain about something, or they're instantly, they tend to go to the negative. And what we're really doing is like moving toward, it's not that we don't give, it's not, we address those, but we don't have to live there anymore. Like, at some point we have to, start moving towards an expansive and positive mindset. And so I love that you're carrying that with you as well. To me, that's super, super important. And bringing us to the last part, I call it legacy and you call it
empire. So it's whatever you're up to, right? It's whether it's work, whether it's, nonprofit, for profit, doesn't really matter. Like, what is your empire? Or your enterprise is another way I've said it in the past, because if you're coaching your kid's soccer team, that could be the empire you're building or the enterprise you're building at that moment in time. So yeah, there's usually a work component and then there's an outside of work component.
I love that. And, it takes a certain level, to me, maturity. I'm going to bring astrology into this a little bit. When I focus on legacy building, it's generally people that have gone through their Uranus opposition after the age of 42 to 44. And so we are, we've done the work of deconditioning the sun, the earth, the Mars, Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter, which is our personal planets. And when we can, we're fully living, fully, unconditionally loving ourselves, fully in alignment with those energies, we get to start moving into the collective and the generational themes of Uranus and Pluto and Neptune, right? So to me, those are our legacy planets, and we get to focus on what is that our generation is here to change. So for instance, since we're talking about Scorpio, my Uranus is in Scorpio, and the people born in, about 77 to 83, we are the first latchkey kids. My generation is also the Zennials, where we're half Generation X, half millennials. Right. This is a generation where we're creating change in our relationships, for one, right? Like, where we're changing the finances and the banking. And so this is where our legacy is really shifting. And so it's really interesting looking at, okay, I've kind of had my kids, I've, worked my, for me it's healthcare. I'm almost at my pension. What is it that I want to do now? Like, what is it that's going to light me up? What is it that I want to leave as a legacy? What is it that I want to contribute to society?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a pure Gen Xer. I was born in 71, so I'm pure Gen X there. It's funny seeing some of the TikToks and Instagrams that, talking about Gen X, you tend to always find your way to your age bracket, of course. But I'm loving some of the videos about, how we used to drink out of garden hoses and, all these things. But yeah, I saw there's a guy that's doing these cool Gen X videos. And he was talking about the Zennials and kind of how they're these hybrid beasts between X and millennials. It's kind of funny. Yeah, the empire thing is interesting. It's something I've always struggled with. I've spent a lot of my life in survival mode. Even though I've made good money, I've also spent really efficiently. Whatever comes in, I can usually spend more than that. So yeah, it's interesting now, because it's always been survival. Like, it's never been what I really wanted to do. And I've kind of known since I was like probably a senior in high school that I was supposed to be some type of teacher. And I knew specifically it was not supposed to be like educate. It was like supposed to be to adults. But in 1989, when I was a senior in high school in a country little town, rural high school, like, my counselors did not know about coaching. They did not know about, any of this stuff, even though it was around. They didn't know how to advise me on that. Like, they're like, no, if you want to be a teacher, you go to college for 4 years, get a, primary, secondary teacher certificate. And I'm like, that's not what I want to do. Like, I know that. So it's interesting. I've been 30 years trying to get back to that thing. But, I look back and like all the stuff I went through is now I can have conversations with people. And I've got this a lot because of my sales experience. I've met all kinds of different people from all walks of life. So I can really relate to a wide swath of people between military and sales and everything else. Like I can, I heard one time an author say you should never write a book until after 50. And that really resonated with me. So I've been putting off my book, but feels ready to write at this point. So that's kind of the next chapter for me, is really diving into the coaching more, stepping away more and more from marketing and sales and marketing, all that stuff, into the coaching, into authorship, sharing those ideas.
I have a very similar story. When I was in high school, I took all the accounting, all the business, all the computer courses. And I went to school. My first time I went to college, and I took my business certificate. And it wasn't until I took my business certificate and I was failing stats that my teacher came to me and said, like, if you would have told us about your dyslexia, we would have been able to help you. And so my dream of being a CMA, a certified management accountant, like just crumbled to the ground. And so
did you know you had dyslexia?
Pardon me?
Did you know you had dyslexia?
I had no idea. No, I had no idea.
So they just picked it up in the way you answered stuff and all that.
Yeah, I had no idea because I'm, quite high functioning, and I'm also, line twos were very good at hiding stuff, aren't we?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I literally think I just realized, like literally in the last couple weeks, that maybe I'm ADD. Like, I don't think I'm ADHD, but I know it's all kind of the same now. But like, I was reading some stuff and I'm like, oh my God, am I like, really? That would explain so much.
So I just say I'm neurodivergent. And to me, so I let that crush me. Which was probably how it was meant to be, because then I went into healthcare, and I'm coming into my third, this is my third career now, and I'm back into business. And I find that my dyslexia is now a superpower, because I can see things, I catch up on things, especially when I'm system analysis and my human design or whatever systems that I'm working at. I can see certain things that other people can't see, or they don't catch on right away. And so I use that in my, as an advantage. And same way with when I started my business, I didn't go through the 20 years that everybody, went through to create a business. I didn't start my business until late into 2021, 2021 is when I kind of started my business. And I just it was the first time I turned on a computer was 2020, from 1990. So there was a huge learning curve, but I didn't learn everything. I just learned what I needed to learn, because I'm just, I've matured enough to know what it is to focus on and what to let go of. And I probably wouldn't have had that level of maturity back when I was 20 years old.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine me coaching somebody when I was 25. I have a hard time sometimes now. It's like, it's like, why would anybody listen to me? Like, if they were to follow me around for the day, they wouldn't be that impressed. But then at the same time, like you said, other people have told me, no, like, you say some pretty amazing stuff. And I'm like, if you say so. And it's taken a lot of work for me to accept those compliments. And believe them. And it's something I still work on. And that's not me trying to be humble. It's like literally, like, my brain just doesn't want to accept it for whatever reason. I'm like, doesn't everybody know this? Doesn't everybody think this way? And my wife and my daughter are like, no, they don't. So it's hard to see your own gifts, for sure.
Yes. And I mean, that's the line too, we have a genius, and our genius is so natural to us that it just second nature to us, where other people are like, how does he do that? And you're wondering, well, how do you not know how to do that? Right.
Yeah.
And it's because we don't really see it. We don't value it. we don't value it until someone's like, whoa, do you know what a gift you have? Like, do you understand? And so it may start as validation, but really it's this confirmation. It's like, yes, you know what, maybe what comes naturally is of value. Maybe
Right.
what it is that I love is of value. And it's really redefining what our self-worth and our self-value is. And for Align 2, it really is what comes natural to us, what is within our genius. And stop trying, because if you're trying, then it's probably not right for you. But if it comes naturally, then maybe put your focus on something that's so natural and so easy for you.
Yeah, that really resonates. That's really been the work I've been doing, the last few years, especially, is just being okay with, because when it does come naturally, it's like, well, I can't charge that much because it's not that hard. Like, but that's the stuff you should be charging the most for, because it's most natural, most gifted, most, from the genius. So it is actually worth more. But that's a big brain jump to make,
That's where the work is.
Yeah.
That's what I love serving my clients through, is doing that work, doing that deep dive into those limiting beliefs, those old stories, those reasons why you don't think you're good enough. But on that note, Sean, can you tell us how it is that we can find you if we want to work with you?
Yeah. So the easiest way right now is just talkwithsean.com, and it's SEAN, like Sean Connery. If you're older, if you're younger, I guess it'd be either Sean Penn, or I'm sure there's a younger Sean that I don't know about. But yeah, SEA, talk with Sean, SEAN.com. That'll just take you to my calendar page. You can book a call. If you heard me on this podcast, there's 3 questions. We'll hop on a call and see what happens. So really not much of a plan other than that. It's very intuitive what I do with people. And either it's right for you or it's not. And, it's about all there is to it.
Awesome. So talkwithsean.com. Love the rhyme. Love how it flows. It's very easily. And so, yeah, you can find Sean there, and you can also find him on Facebook as well. That's where I met Sean, was on Facebook. And so we're going to end it here. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to today's episode of Soulprism Podcast, and we'll see you later.
See ya.